Live from University Park, this is Nittany Talk. I'm your host, Danny Vitale, and today we'll be discussing political turmoil, the latest news and entertainment, and Halloween throwbacks and trivia. Also, stay tuned to watch our talent flex their pumpkin painting skills on this special spooktacular episode. Now, let's get to talking. Welcome back to Nittany Talk. Now we're going to send it over to the politics panel to discuss political concerns throughout the country. Over to you, Jace.
Thanks, Danny. I'm Jace Obardo alongside Olivia Jean, Ryan Lowy, and Yaya One. In a time of political turmoil across the world, here in the United States, Americans have their own concerns. What these concerns may come down to is the trust that Americans have in the functioning of our country. So with that said, what do you all think is the biggest threat facing our democracy?
I absolutely think that the biggest threat is the distrust in elections. Elections are a fundamental part in a democracy. Without safe, fair, free elections, there is no democracy. I mean, the point of a democracy is the representation of the people of that country. And so elections give people that opportunity to elect someone to represent them. But if you don't have free and fair elections, or you have distrust in the system of elections and the way that elections are done in the certain country, it brings down democracy. And I think over the recent years with January 6th, with certain conspiracy theories of election fraud, we've had a very much distrust in elections.
And I think that goes hand in hand with a lack of participation, especially from voters. There's a lot of talk of, oh, I don't really see how my one vote can make a difference. But if we really break down the word democracy, where does it come from? Demos, the Greek word for people. If you don't have people invested in your democracy, that democracy is not going to be able to take up off the ground, because you don't have people actively participating, whether that's just researching voter campaigns, actually going out and voting, doing community service. If you don't have people who are willing to engage with our political sphere, politics is just going to die. And it goes with that distrust, because people don't think that what they can do makes a difference, because they say, oh, the government is corrupt, the elections are rigged and everything. So what can I do? I feel small, I feel helpless. Then that just is a vicious cycle, and it ultimately degrades our democracy.
On the concept of small, I take a unique approach to this problem. I feel that the biggest problem our democracy faces is little attention at the local and the state level. At the federal level, Congress is, I don't want to say paralyzed, but close to it. When we look at state legislatures, the power of governors, local police departments, that stuff is decided by local elections, which just flat out do not get enough attention. We need to start focusing on how we can solve problems, and we can't solve problems by worrying about what the president is doing when there's corruption in local police departments, prosecutors have too much problems in local courts. I feel that we're oblivious to the fact that state governments actually have more power than federal governments over our day-to-day lives. And we're oblivious to that. I think that's just very unfortunate. We take a look at the power, as I said, of prosecutors, law enforcement, mayors. These people all take very heavy impacts on taxes, lifestyles, and we just don't give them enough attention. I think that's just the most unfortunate part of our democracy.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how important local elections are, and especially for the local elections coming up next month. Today's the last day to request an absentee ballot. Anyone in the studio and you guys? Today, October 31st, is the last day to request an absentee ballot. If you need one, do it now. But yeah, these local elections, I mean, stuff from the federal government comes down and they become state issues. So you're electing the people that are deciding this for you in your home state, and you're their constituents. They're the ones who you can most easily reach. So people should be paying more attention to local elections.
And
ahead.
Ryan, you talk about corruption a lot. I mean, I think part of the decline in democracy that we're seeing, specifically in the United States, is the change in perception of the acceptable political behavior, the standards that we hold our politicians to. I think we're allowing these politicians to hold themselves at a lower standard, speak in a non-professional way, maybe dress in a non-professional way. We've decreased our political standards for politicians, especially in most recent years. So I think that also contributes because we don't expect much from them anymore, unfortunately.
Well, Congress has become a TV show. The presidency has become a retirement home. Let's not even get into the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has been a problem for hundreds of years. But if we take a look again at the local level, state legislatures are the ones that make most of our decisions. They pass thousands of bills altogether. Some of them are bicameral, some of them are not. And they make decisions like, mandatory minimums and maximums for when you go to prison. Now we're putting the power of if you can have an abortion or not on local government. And we really just don't pay enough attention to our local representatives. And that gives them the opportunity, once again, to become more susceptible to funding from private organizations. And your favorite word, Olivia, that I use, corruption. I love using that word. I hate seeing it.
Right. And it comes down to, honestly, a basic lack of understanding of how our state and local government works. People don't pay attention to them because, like you said, the presidential election is all people pay attention to because people can get laughs out of it, they can make memes out of it, but they don't understand the weight that our local and state governments hold. And I think we talk about the threats to our democracy, but I see a lot of good things happening with people trying to raise awareness and trying to get that political fire back into people. If you look at PSU votes, there's a ballot box right outside of the hub. You have people handing out little stickers, giving people registration forms, because a lot of the times young people our age don't really know where to go when they want to register to vote. So having that stuff on campus is really important because change happens within our demographic. I feel like people who are our age going into college, or maybe not even in college, but this is who is going to be the next generation of leaders, and this is why we have to be so involved in politics, in voting, in all the election processes.
Unfortunately, the youth voice is not heard enough in politics. I mean, we have most of the politicians in government right now are old. They seem to think that they can represent us correctly, but they are not doing a good job of that. And therefore, it also comes on our behalf that our generation is not voting. Like, our generation would rather just stay away and not care and not look and not educate themselves on anything. So we don't have our voices heard in politics now.
And I think there's something to be said for age and wisdom, but at the same time, you have people falling asleep, stopping in the middle of what they're saying. Those are things that are not acceptable. I mean, and if this is our Halloween show, so if you want to talk about what's scary, this is what's scary. The trust in federal government is historically low. So a Pew Research poll said 16% of people have it. That's the level of trust people have in our
16% of the people trust our current government structure.
Trust the way our democracy is functioning right now.
Well, I mean, our democracy does have a lot of
horrifying.
problems. Gerrymandering or redistricting, whatever you want to call it, that's a mess. The Electoral College. The structure they were given isn't perfect, and it's sad that we think it's perfect. But the truth is that, as you said, we have a voice, and we don't use it. And that's the most unfortunate part of the whole thing.
Yeah. Another thing I think that is huge contributing to the decline of democracy is the misinformation that media, portrays. Every day, I mean, it's one side or the other. It's never just the stats. I mean, there's a lot of good journalists that are doing great work in really putting their heart and soul out there to get the information correctly and accurately inform viewers. But then there's the stuff that gets viral that's not correct. It's not accurate, and it's really dividing people and making this political polarization environment much more divided.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that now it's become a lot about who's the loudest. I mean, like you were saying, there's a lot of journalists on the local level who are doing a super job
And
at
the national level.
And national level, but people who are informing their communities, and people don't like to pay attention to that because, again, it's not as entertaining. I feel like currently as a society, we're more driven towards things that are entertaining, and we want to stay away from things that make us uncomfortable or things that are important or things that don't generate as many likes, as many views. So when Ryan comes back to, local state governments, I think we also need to talk about local journalism and how people do such a great job day in and day out informing people. These are when elections are happening. This is who's running. This is their policy stances. But people don't pay attention to that because it's small business journalism.
And I will say that I think people are fed up with what they're seeing going on. So I think next presidential election, we're going to see a lot more people come out, I hope. Because if you think about what are people most concerned about right now, inflation, the people our age, like the odds of us owning a house in our 20s is extremely unlikely because the housing market. Exactly. So I think that's going to drive a lot of people to the voting
And
booths.
America sets an example. That's why it's so unfortunate to see what's going on with the election in Brazil, with the behavior of those two running the election in France that we saw just a couple of years ago. That was a disaster. So, we're setting a very bad example at the federal level for state governments, for local governments, and for other countries. And it's just so unfortunate because in today's society, I don't want to say we're going down, but we're definitely not going up.
Right. And that's what's scary. But that wraps up our discussion for politics. Back to you, Danny.
Thanks, Jace. We'll be right back to discuss all things entertainment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Nittany Talk. This week has been a crazy one for entertainment, from the release of a memoir by one of the most popular artists in recent years, as well as the death of a beloved actor from a legendary TV show. Let's send it over to the entertainment panel to break down all the latest news.
Thank you so much, Danny. I'm Kim Kardashian, joined here today with Audrey Hepburn, Jennifer Coolidge, Marilyn Monroe, and Galleria. There has been a ton of shocking news in the world of entertainment. Britney Spears has just recently released her memoir called The Woman in Me, and there are so many shocking revelations that we are going to dive into in just a little bit. And then we are also going to get into the horrible, tragic news I'm sure you guys have all heard about Matthew Perry passing away, which has left the whole world devastated. But first, let's get into Britney. She released her memoir last Tuesday, and which was really shocking to hear, for me at least, was she started her acting career at 11 years old, and I didn't even really know she acted, honestly.
I feel like a lot of the times you do see celebrities kind of like double dipping into those fields, but I never really knew her to be the type that did act, so I think it's kind of interesting to know she started there. I wonder what changed that led her to become a singer and obviously do very well there too.
Absolutely. And I thought it was interesting too. I have not gotten the chance to read the book yet, but I did read a very in-depth overview that the New Yorker published. And it was interesting to see how she wrote about, she got into singing after hearing her housekeeper sing gospel music. So I thought that was really interesting. I mean, she grew up in Louisiana, so it makes sense that gospel music would have been the song she would have heard. But she said she was really inspired by soulful music, and that was how she kind of got her start. But the acting thing, I had no idea about either. But I thought it was really interesting how she did mention she got started with soulful music, because I don't know that you necessarily think as Baby One More Time as soulful music, but I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Well, also, she met Justin Timberlake when she first started out too, and they really hit it off. Even had a little kiss playing Truth or Dare, but we'll get into that later. But I just thought that was interesting as well. Her on the Mickey Mouse Club as a Mouseketeer, and that had quite a star-studded cast from Ryan Gosling to even Christina Aguilera. So the fact that they all grew up together, I thought was really cool.
No, and it's like so interesting because they're all icons. It's like, wow, you guys really like saw each other grow up. Like it's really interesting to watch. Yeah.
I was completely aware that Ryan Gosling and Christina Aguilera were on there, but I honestly didn't even know until looking it up that Britney Spears was on there as well. I know that she came out with a film in 2003, and I know, well, obviously she ended up having the most massive singing career of the time. But I know Jamie Lynn Spears actually ended up taking, her sister ended up taking up the acting spotlight later on in her life with Zoe 101, and of course, the sequel that came out this year.
Well, the craziest thing was she was actually runner-up for The Notebook, besides Rachel McAdams. And at the time, Rachel wasn't that prominent in the acting world, so they were like, we really want Britney, because like you said, she was a superstar. And I don't know if you guys have watched her demo, or not demo reel, but her, whatever it is. It'll come back to me. But the casting director was like, oh my gosh, we need Britney, because it was so powerful.
I think it's really interesting to see that she did have such an impact in the acting world, yet that's not what we know her for. So it's crazy to see she did so well there, but yet, no, Britney Spears, we know her for all those hit songs that we still listen to today.
Well, the casting director was like, come back to acting. We want you.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, hey, I'm doing my own thing right now.
I mean, do you think we'll see her resurface in the acting world? Who knows?
Yeah, honestly, I think that would be awesome.
Honestly,
I mean, and her. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that with the end of this conservatorship under her father, I can't imagine how much she'd want to immerse herself in the industry, but at the same time, you know, I understand how hurt she must be. Obviously, she had only the fans backing her up, and the media backing her up whenever she was, you know, facing the conservatorship. But I'd love to see her get free range in the industry to do what she pleases and define, you know, what her interests are once more.
Absolutely. And I know in the memoir she mentioned how she's so happy to be getting a clean slate now, so she can maybe not necessarily start over. I mean, she has such a background, and I'm sure she'd want to keep that and still, I mean, she's still going to be Britney Spears, but I'm really interested to see what she does next and where her career goes.
I think so too. I think what she's most not afraid of, but the media scrutinized her so much during her career, whether it be for her VMAs performances or the fact that she was dating Justin Timberlake or even like shaving her head. It was just, she was magnified. Let's talk a little bit about that.
And you know, Kim, I actually was thinking about that earlier whenever I was looking this up. The media, especially in the early 2000s, whenever it was absolutely panning Britney Spears, I don't understand how it all just completely took a rewind in recent years whenever she was trying to break free from a conservatorship. It just goes to show that media really contradicts itself whenever it's trying to appeal to what the viewers want. And I never understood it, and I thought Britney Spears' case was the biggest prime example of that.
I mean, especially because when you look at her throughout the media, it really does a lot of the time seem to be a negative angle on her and her life and the things that she's going through. And it kind of makes you wonder why they take that angle with her. And I guess, you know, you always say from the outside looking in, but it definitely has to be hard whenever you're in the public spotlight. You know, nothing is your own. Everything is out there for everyone to see. But especially to watch your life play out in front of you in the media in a negative way, I can only imagine the kind of effects that's going to take on her mental health, and it maybe helps explain some of the things that has gone on with her.
Absolutely.
No,
Especially,
exactly.
yeah, since you're 11 years old, you're in the media, it must be horrible.
No, yeah, and like I can imagine it feels like horrible to like lose control of your own image in the media, and like that's kind of why we saw like the spiral, I would imagine. Like, you know, like she was kind of trying to like push back by like doing all these, I guess, what they called outrageous stuff. Like, you know, like trying to take back that control, I'm sure.
Take back that narrative.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it was a narrative because she even said they portrayed me as a party girl, and that wasn't my image at all. It was just the way I was photographed, which was interesting. And also she has a quote that I wrote down. It says, "I've been eyeballed so much growing up. I'd been looked at up and down. I've had people telling me what they thought of my body since I was a teenager. So shaving my head and acting out was a way of pushing back." And I would agree with that, because if you have someone telling you what to do and then her dad telling her what to do, it must be a lot.
It's just a shame that whenever she did do that, the media completely portrayed her as losing her mind. And it just breaks my heart because obviously, you know, I believe that she was telling the truth in that memoir, like, you know, pushing back, retaliating, but of course it came back to bite her in the media, and it just, it's heartbreaking for her at the time.
Yeah, I think so too. And then back to her relationship with Justin, the media also portrayed her in a negative light, even though they were both unfaithful to each other. But they really were like, oh my gosh, Britney was the one who demised the relationship, when in reality, I mean, there's two sides to every story.
Oh, absolutely. I think the whole relationship is just so sad. I don't know that anybody was treated right in it. And I know in the memoir, Britney mentions how it wasn't the cheating that was the most painful part or any of the other stuff. It was the misrepresentation of her in his music, because that's their industry. That is how they express themselves, their emotions, their life. They express their life through their music. And I wouldn't want to be I wouldn't want Jen Coolidge over here to write a song about me
Exactly.
saying I'm crazy. I mean, I'm Audrey Hepburn. I'm dead. How can I be crazy?
Well, you know, I think one of the nice things about this memoir is that it and I guess all memoirs, it really humanizes the celebrity that makes it. It shows things from their perspective, because what we see, like I said, outside looking in, we see what the media tells us, which can be skewed, but we don't fully get a look into what's happening in their minds. And so having these memoirs, it gives us a good look into what were they thinking? What's gone through their head? What is their story? Because that's what we tend to miss. We tend to miss their story.
Well, speaking of memoirs, Matthew Perry actually wrote one in 2022. And speaking of this shocking news, he did die on Saturday, which when I found out, I was like, this cannot be real life. It was horrible.
I was it's so heartbreaking because in recent years he's become so candid about his addictions. And the fact that death came to him in the midst of his sobriety is just heartbreaking because, and, you know, he even said he wanted to be remembered whenever he passed for, you know, helping others, you know, achieve sobriety like he did. And it's horrible. I can't even stop thinking about it. It's such a tragedy.
Yeah, he said, I would rather people remember me for helping others rather than for my portrayal of Chandler and Friends, which I thought was super interesting because he's so iconic in that role.
And you can see that like really rang true. Like even just looking through his Instagram comments, there are people like, oh wow, you really inspired me to sober up and like all that stuff. So like he definitely achieved that during his life. It's just so sad to see him go so early.
Yeah, and I was sad too when I read that page where he said, I don't want to be remembered as Chandler from Friends, because that was the first thing that came to my mind. But now that's inspired me to do more research into him and look into his memoir and the things he has done, because I mean, acting, he was an amazing actor, but the things he does to helping people is so much more important. I mean, Friends could have helped people, absolutely, but helping people through addiction and drug abuse as something that he went through is just so much more impactful.
Well, especially because he had that platform. I mean, let's be real. Friends was a very important pop culture show for our generation. So I think for a lot of us, when we got that message, we were like, oh my gosh, he died, like he's 54. But
I think he was the youngest one too.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
And so he has a platform. And so even though a lot of us know him as Chandler from Friends, you know, his memoir comes out and the stuff with drug addiction, a lot more came out, and he was able to use that platform for a good cause.
Well, speaking of his platform, I don't know if you guys saw, but 5 days prior to him passing, he posted a picture in his jacuzzi, which everyone is thinking it's a little eerie. I'm not really sure what to think about it. I was a little shocked, obviously, but what do you guys think about that?
Oh, a lot of like fans speculated that he was sending a bat signal. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but there have been like multiple media outlets that have been like, he never said anything about that. So like it's kind of like there's this division where people are like, yeah, he was in trouble, and people are like, no, he was just a Batman fan. So like it's kind of hard to tell like what's going on.
It was weird though, because his last chapter in his memoir was called Batman.
Yes, yeah.
And he's been really posting that prior to his death, but I know the police are still investigating. They're still going to come out with a toxicology report in a couple days. So hopefully we'll uncover what really happened, and God, hope he rests in peace. But that is all we have time for today. Tune in to hear all the latest pop culture, entertainment, and everything else next time. But back to you, Danny.
Thanks, Courtney. I'm super excited to read Britney Spears' memoir. Our thoughts and prayers are also with Matthew Perry's friends and family, as well as all who are affected by this tragic loss. He'll be greatly missed. By the way, we will be right back to watch a little celebrity wheel around Pollock Commons. Welcome back to Nittany Talk. It's been reported that Abby Lee Miller was spotted at Pollock Commons handing out candy to students. Just kidding, that was our very own Jake Santoro doing some Halloween trivia. Jake, tell us a little bit about your package.
Ooh, thank you, Danny.
Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer Coolidge, and my good friend Abby Lee Miller stopped by campus the other day to see what the students deserved candy this Halloween. Let's see what she was up to.
Welcome back to a special segment on Nittany Talk. Today, I have a bowl of candy and I'm dressed up as Abby Lee Miller. And we are going to be rolling on into Pollock Commons to see if people can answer my Halloween questions correctly. If they get them right, will they be at the top of the pyramid? We'll just have to go see and find out. I'm about to get my finger in everyone's face tonight at Pollock Commons. Let's see if they can get my Halloween trivia right. Hello, ladies. I have a quick question for you.
Yeah, of course.
What is the most popular Halloween candy?
Reese's.
That is correct. You win for tonight. Congratulations, and I hope you have a great Halloween.
Thank you. Wait, can I get a point about Abby Miller?
Of course. Off to my next victim. I can't go upstairs. Quick question, ma'am.
Oh, yes.
Quick question. Have you ever seen the movie Halloween?
Yes.
What is the mask that Michael Myers wears in that movie? Who is it based off of? Ooh, it's based off of William Shatner. You're at the bottom of the pyramid. What a shame. Sorry. What's your name?
Estella.
I'm gonna ask you a quick question.
Okay.
What do black hats symbolize?
Bad luck.
Bad luck. That's absolutely correct. You win all this candy. Congratulations, and I hope you have a great Halloween. You're at the top of the pyramid. All right, now for our final question. Hello, everyone, and happy Halloween. I have a quick question for any one of you. According to IMDb, what is the most popular Halloween movie? Will you be on top of the pyramid? Will you guess it correctly? Halloween movie. 5 seconds. Halloween movie. It could be anything. 3. Friday the 13th. These suck. You guys are at the bottom of the pyramid. Second is the first to lose.
Save those tears for the pillow.
Here we go. Oh, excuse me. Abby Lee coming through. Hey, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What was originally carved before pumpkins? A, tomatoes, B, potatoes, or C, squash? If you get it right, you get the rest of this candy.
Say squash.
Squash is incorrect, unfortunately. It is potatoes. You know what? Why not? Happy Halloween.
Thank you.
And to all, a great night. Thank you for watching this special segment of Nittany Talk, and always remember, there's no I in team, but there's M and there's an E, and it's all about me.
Well, Danny and I hope all students enjoyed Abby's questions.
Thanks, Jennifer. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Nittany Talk. I don't know about you, but I was super excited for Halloween each year growing up. Dressing up in costumes, eating plenty of candy, what's not to love? Let's send it over to Marielle Reese to discuss the best Halloween throwbacks.
Thanks, Danny. I'm Marielle Reese, and I'm joined with Eva Hines, Gigi Fuentes, and Ellie Miller. Today, we're taking it back to the early 2000s with some childhood Halloween nostalgia. We're going to talk about our favorite Halloween movies, costumes, candy memories, and more from when we were kids. So guys, I feel like we should start off with childhood Halloween movies. List them out. Tell me what you got. You can go first.
So I feel like the first one I always remember watching was A Nightmare Before Christmas.
I
love that movie. Yes,
And it's perfect. Twice a year.
Yes. I would always go to my grandma's house and she would make me some butter noodles and we would put it on. And I just always remember it being such a staple in that time of year. Another one, because I'm a huge Disney fan, was Girl vs. Monster.
Yes, that's my
Oh
favorite.
my gosh, some of the
Every
best
year.
songs too. Luke
The
Benward.
soundtrack.
Like
I
Luke
love
Benward.
it.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yes.
I was personally a big Twitches fan. That was my movie. I actually short story. So I have my sun necklace on right now. My mom got my sister the moon necklace.
That is
and
so
she has a
cute.
combined sun and moon necklace. Like she ordered them all off Etsy and got it to us a couple years back. It's like my favorite thing. Oh my gosh. Okay,
Like,
Gigi.
that is so, I love Coco. It's just, it's like, it gives you the emotional aspect and it's like the Day of the Dead and I just love it so much. And I think a whole staple for me for Halloween is Coraline. I just love that movie. It's so good. It's kind of creepy.
I've actually
but
never watched it.
You never watched it?
I've never watched it.
You
Like,
have to.
I missed it. I don't know how. I just did.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, well, watching Coraline now, though, freaks me out. I used to watch it fine when I was a kid, and now it just doesn't have the same effect.
It's like
so
a
I can't-
reverse effect.
I know. Everyone says the opposite, but it's just not for me anymore.
Yeah.
Personally, I think the best memories I had with my dad growing up were watching the It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
I
That
love
was such a
that.
classic.
My family always
for
has
me.
a classic.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I used to always watch that. So let's go.
Okay, and moving on to, I see the Hermione Granger costume,
Yes.
which I myself did a lot when I was younger. What were you guys' like favorite childhood Halloween costumes? We can start with you again.
Yeah, a big staple for me when I was younger was Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. My whole family did like a group thing. Like my dad was
my
Scarecrow,
goodness.
my mom was like the Wicked Witch. So I really liked that one. And then one year, me and my sister, I was a cookie and she was a milk. And we went around. I remember being in my like brown leggings with like a big cookie on me. I could barely walk.
That is
and
so
one
cute.
of my favorites.
Gigi, what about you?
So I used to like Monster High when I was younger.
Oh my
and so
goodness.
I dressed up as Jackie Laura and
She was one with the pink highlights, right?
Yes,
That's the best one.
yes.
Yeah.
And so in middle school, I used to have these like Halloween parties. And I remember it was kind of DIY also. I had these like pink hair extensions and they were curly and I had this black and pink tutu and I was going all out. That's
so
yeah,
fun.
so
that
cute.
Okay,
core
yeah.
memory.
Ellie?
Okay, guys, I was an OG Penn State fan. I was a Penn State cheerleader.
No
It
way.
was so fun. I just remember getting like at all of like the Penn State families just yelling, "We are!" and I have no clue what they're talking about. But I was dressed up as a Penn State cheerleader, and then, me and my entire family were Star Wars characters. So I was Chewbacca. And I wore a mask, and no one knew who I was. It was
You
so
stayed warm
silly.
though because you're in all the fur.
Of
Yeah,
course,
that's nice.
that was a costume.
Yeah.
I was obsessed with Hermione Granger, so I did it like 2-3 years in a row. I crimped my hair and everything. It was like a whole thing. And then I also, I have a cousin. He's like 7 now, but like 7 years ago when he was like a baby, he was like baby Superman, and I dressed up as Supergirl because Supergirl and Superman were cousins, and it was really fun.
That's so cute.
I love it.
Yeah.
So on that track of memories and stuff, do you guys have any like childhood traditions that like you had when you were kids that you still do now or maybe not anymore?
Yeah. So I would say trick or treating is just a big thing that I've always done. And just like I mentioned before, I used to have like these Halloween parties. So when I was younger, it was every year we had it kind of in elementary school, and that used to be, oh my gosh, the highlight of my year. I looked forward to that all the time. I was like, guys, are you ready to do the Halloween party? They're like, yeah. So it was like, that was just a whole core memory for me.
Especially the classroom parties that you had like in elementary school when you each brought candy and like made a dessert or something.
So
Those were the best.
Oh my gosh, and those really sugary cookies that like are terrible for you, with the bright fluorescent orange icing and the
But they taste so
sprinkles.
good.
Those were the
They taste
best.
so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
Eva, you got
I
anything?
remember in elementary we would all dress up every day, or the day of Halloween, and we would kind of line up outside and like cars would drive by and we could like grab candy from them. And I remember that being like my favorite day of the year. And then of
So
course
fun.
just trick or treating.
Yeah.
Which I was like kind of sad. I was like when we got older, like not being able to do that anymore.
Right.
But it's fun that here we can still celebrate Halloween in different
Exactly.
ways. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
I know my school had a trunk or treat, which I don't know if you guys had any of this. So like the cars, so like all the parents would like sign up and they would have like all the trunks open in the parking lot and you would just go trick or treating from trunk to trunk, like right after school. And it was like, it was so fun. I got such candy. And I don't know if you guys ever did this with your friends or siblings or whatever, but we would do like a candy haul, right? Like I like all the Reese's peanut butter cups. My sister liked all the like Hershey bars.
Yeah.
We would be like trading candy and everything like that. It was really bad.
Yeah. I think a big staple for me also is just going to haunted houses as well.
Yeah.
I
Those are
just
fun.
love haunted houses. They're great.
Me too.
I do get scared though.
I'm from Pittsburgh, so we have Kennywood, and every year they would do Fright Nights. And we would go and they would have haunted houses, and me and all my big like friend group, we would go, and it was so fun. It was a little scary. They would have like scare actors walking around the park. And I was like, oh,
See, those always freak me out. I was a late bloomer with those ones because I was so terrified of all of it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think that's all the time, sadly, we have for today.
Yeah.
Well, now we have to snap back to 2023. Do you all agree with our childhood Halloween favorites? Back to you, Danny.
Thanks, Marielle. For me, I don't think anything is going to top my Power Rangers costume from kindergarten. It's been a crazy episode and I lost my hat, but that's all we have for this week. We hope you had a blast learning the latest in politics and entertainment, learning some Halloween trivia, and discussing our favorite Halloween throwbacks. From Nittany Talk, I'm Danny Vitale. Have a happy and safe Halloween, and we hope to see you next week. Now, let's see those pumpkins.